Okay, thank you. Thank you all for coming today. I'm State Representative Sharon MacDonnell of House District 56, representing my daughter's hometown of Troy and surrounding cities in Oakland County. We're here today to announce the introduction of my House resolution to censure State Representative Josh Schriver for his racist statements on the House floor directed at Michiganders of Asian, African, and Latin American descent. On May 1st, Rep. Schriver spoke on a bill regarding sanctuary cities. The fact that the rep is against sanctuary cities is not news. That's fine. It's policy. We all have differing views. However, just seconds into his floor speech, I was sad and angered to hear him not criticize a bill, but criticize people. People he doesn't know. Schriver blamed naturalized citizens and their descendants for America's ills. He said, quote, "The chasm in our country is not one of income, ideology, or faith, but of ethnicity and loyalty." That kind of un-American bigotry that led to the internment of 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent during World War II, including my American-born parents-in-law. Schriver also said this, quote, "The largest population transfer in American history is coming from all the races in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and they are not acclimating. They are not melting, and they are not reforming to the American way of life." That's appalling. I think any rational person can agree that it's one thing to have strong opinions on immigration policy in Michigan. It's fully another thing to claim that all immigrants, including naturalized citizens, are bad people. It's even worse to claim that all people of certain ethnicity that he doesn't like, or a certain national origin that Schriver doesn't like, are bad people. It's un-American to talk that way, and it's simply not true. What Michiganders need to be protected from is white supremacist hate speech from people in power. My district has among the highest population of Indian and Chinese American citizens in Michigan, both American-born and foreign-born. Among these citizens are my daughters, who my husband and I adopted from China. They are immigrants and they are citizens. And I can tell you here and now that they know far better what it means to be an American and how to honor America than Rep. Schriver can begin to imagine. I won't sit idly by and watch as Republican House leadership allows their caucus members to slander the goodness and loyalty of our citizens, of our constituents on the House floor. I recommend they all read the 14th Amendment of our Constitution, which protects the rights of all American citizens. Rep. Schriver's speech on May 1st and his continued promotion of white supremacism reveals that at least one member of this House does not believe all U.S. citizens are worthy of our representation. I call on Michigan House Republicans to denounce Rep. Schriver's racist statements and to co-sponsor and vote yes on the censure resolution. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Democratic Leader Ranji Puri.
Thank you, Rep. MacDonnell. Last week, Representative Josh Schriver delivered a vile and hateful speech on the House floor. His comments were deliberate, disgusting, dangerous, and disgraceful. They were an attack on families like mine and an attack on the very spirit of inclusion and the progress that our state is making. His remarks were rooted in ignorance and prejudice, and they do not reflect the values of House Democrats or the values of the Michigan people. Rep. Schriver used his position on the House floor to amplify white supremacy, xenophobia, and hate. He targeted immigrant families he was elected to serve. Mind you, over 10% of his district has immigrant roots, and that's just a betrayal of public trust. Rep. Schriver also specifically singled out countries whose people are overwhelmingly black, brown, and non-white, not once mentioning European nations or white immigrants. That's not a coincidence. That's racism, plain and simple. He didn't just invoke racist tropes. He leaned into dangerous great replacement theory, suggesting that immigrants of color are here to erase American identity. That's not policy. That's paranoia rooted in white supremacy. By deliberately naming only black and brown nations as threats, Rep. Schriver made it clear His fear isn't immigration, it's integration. What is equally troubling is the silence from Republican leadership and its members. Their silence tells every immigrant family, every child of immigrants, that they are not welcome, they are not valued, and they are not equal. This is not an isolated incident. This is not a misstep. This is part of a disturbing pattern, and it demands real consequences. As the proud son of immigrants, I stand here not just as a legislator, but as someone whose parents came to this country in search of opportunity, dignity, and a better life. This is not about patriotism. Rep. Schriver claims that immigrants can't love our country. Like so many families who call Michigan home, immigrants work hard. They contribute to our communities, and they believe in the promise of America. Immigrants love this country. That is why they live here. That's why they choose to live here. I believe in a Michigan where your skin color, your accent, your last name, or your faith doesn't define your limits, but your dreams do. The Michigan I believe in is built by people who wake up early and work late and love this state deeply, no matter where they were born. In our Michigan, we don't fear difference, we embrace it. We don't stoke division, we build bridges. And we don't spread hate, we lead with heart. Our Michigan doesn't belong to one race or one language or one party. It belongs to everyone who is willing to contribute, to care, and to call it home. I represent a Michigan where the children of immigrants can grow up to become the Michigan House Democratic leader. I lead because of the values my immigrant parents taught me: kindness, courage, and community. That's the Michigan I serve, and that's the Michigan worth defending. So today, I'm calling on Speaker Hall and my colleagues from across the aisle to do what is right. Denounce this hateful rhetoric. Reaffirm that Michigan belongs to all of us, no matter where our families come from. Because when white supremacy echoes in the chambers and you say nothing, you're not neutral, you are complicit. And with that, I now invite my colleague, Representative Foreman, to speak.
Thank you, Leader Puri. It is a great and distinguished honor to come here every day and to be elected by my constituents to work here. But I work in a chamber where people who don't look like me think that I didn't earn the spot that I have. What Rep. Schriver said on the House floor wasn't just offensive, it was vile, it was racist, it was dangerous to this institution that I, my colleagues, and so many other Michiganders hold sacred. And he said it without hesitation. He said it with audacity, as if hate belongs in these halls. Let's call it what it is. This rhetoric doesn't emerge out of anywhere. It thrives in the climate that House Republicans have created this entire term. And it undermines the values of the Michiganders a lot of us choose and are serving. Since the very first day of session, my colleagues have chosen to prioritize fear over facts. They've led with division instead of solutions, pushing bills that criminalize immigrants, stoke xenophobia, and distract from the real issues facing Michigan families. Meanwhile, working people across this state are dealing with real, urgent, and persistent needs. They are trying to afford groceries and health care. They are navigating a broken healthcare system. They are waiting on energy, clean water, housing, and public safety. And they are waiting for action and urgency from this chamber. And what have House Republicans delivered instead? Culture war bills, political stunts, and a steady stream of fear-mongering and distraction. So no, I am not surprised Rep. Schriver felt comfortable enough to demean and diminish a quarter of this state's population. But I am furious, because this chamber should be a place where all Michiganders see themselves reflected and respected, not vilified. The House floor is a space of service, not a stage for hate. House Democrats have brought package after package after package forward to actually make life better, to lower costs, defend workers' rights, hold corporations accountable, and tackle health disparities head on That's what the people sent us here to do. We're not backing down. I reject hate. I can speak for my colleagues. We reject hate. We reject any agenda that puts political theater above the people's needs. And we stand united together, always for a Michigan where everyone belongs. I'll now turn this over to my colleague, Representative Pies.
Thank you, Representative Veronica Pies from 10th House District. I want to start by saying I am the granddaughter of a Mexican immigrant. And so I'll go on to say that the U.S. is built by immigrants, and Michigan is built by immigrants. Generation after generation, people have come from around the world to Michigan to set down roots, to build and enrich our communities, work to diversify our economies and our cultures. Representative Schriver's exact words were, all the races in Asia, Africa, Latin America, they are not acclimating, they are not melting, they are not reforming to the American way of life. The chasm is of ethnicity and loyalty. That immigrants have chosen to live and work and thrive in Michigan is a testament to their loyalty and to our country and the people of this state. I believe each of us was elected to represent all the people who live in our districts. It doesn't matter how you got here, if you live in a house, if you live in a car, if you live in the street, you don't get to pick and choose which of your constituents you represent. Apparently, Rep. Schriver has decided not to represent over 10% of the people of his district. I want to make something very clear to Representative Schriver, to Speaker Matt Hall, and to the House Republicans who do approve of Representative Schriver's words. Hatred and exclusion are unacceptable, and I refuse to allow his words to define Michigan and to define this legislature. Representative MacDonnell's resolution and our press conference should not have to be the wake-up call to our speaker, who has refused to censure Representative Schriver, and he and we all need to denounce hate. I'll pass it on now to some representatives from Rising Voices and the American Citizens for Justice.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, rather. My name is Jasmine Rivera, and I am the co-executive director of Rising Voices. We're an organization that works on behalf of Asian American women and families in Michigan. We want to say that Representative Schriver's comments reflect a pattern of dehumanization aimed at excluding minorities from being fully fledged members of our society, and that these incidents cannot be simply dismissed out of hand as hateful comments and isolated racism from the Michigan GOP. They have a real, actual negative impact on our community, as that bigoted rhetoric can turn into actual harmful legislation. We have seen this in the introduction of alien land laws in the Michigan House. These are discriminatory bills aimed to resurrect a racial history of anti-Asian exclusion by barring immigrants, particularly from Asian communities and countries, from land ownership and economic opportunity in Michigan. The same lawmakers who demean our communities with such words are actively trying to disempower us through policy. These are connected. Let us be absolutely clear. This kind of rhetoric and policies are dangerous. They embolden white supremacists, and they demonize communities of color. A new survey conducted by the Asian American Foundation has found that 40% of Americans believe that Asian Americans are more loyal to their countries of origin than to the U.S. A quarter of Americans believe that Chinese Americans are a threat to the general public and national security. In the meantime, the same survey shows that 63% of Asian Americans feel unsafe in the day-to-day spaces and fear that they will be victims of discrimination and violence in the next 5 years because of this rising rhetoric. This is API Heritage Month, and we at Rising Voices implore Michigan's elected officials to recognize that merely celebrating our food and our culture are not good enough. Our families and our communities deserve more than empty symbolic gestures. We deserve dignity, respect, and professional conduct from those who serve the people of Michigan. using positions of power to bully, belittle, or devalue our fellow public servants and entire communities is unacceptable. Michigan faces serious challenges ahead, and we demand serious leadership. Asian Americans comprise the fastest growing voting population in Michigan, and our voices will be heard, and our votes will have an impact in this state. Harmful and hateful rhetoric and policies will not build the safe and inclusive and thriving future that our families need, deserve, and will influence the people who we will elect. Thank you.
I'm Roland Wong, President of American Citizens for Justice, an Asian American civil rights organization. It was founded in 1982 because of the killing of Vincent Chin, and that legacy lives on today. We are still in business addressing civil rights issues to this day because of all of the hurtful incidents, hateful speech, and all of the other occurrences that really affect the Asian American presence in Michigan. We denounce hateful, hurtful speech, and we urge that Representative Schriver take back his words. Perhaps he doesn't realize how hurtful it is, but as I was hearing the statement of Rep. Schriver, it just called my attention to my family's past. My father and my mother were international students at the University of Michigan and came here to study, but because of the revolution in China, they chose to stay. They chose freedom over tyranny, and that's the reason why they came to the United States. Vincent Chin was a hardworking Asian American, but was mistaken for being someone else, to be the fall person for the Japanese imports of vehicles. It's this misunderstanding of who we are as a country, ostensibly a welcoming state, that is really called into question by Rep. Schriver's comments. And so I urge that Rep. Schriver take back his words and let us live in peace here in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
State Representative Mai Song. I represent the 13th House District. And during the month of May, while we should be celebrating AA and HPI Heritage Month, Jewish Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, and honoring our veterans of all backgrounds, Republicans passed dumb bills to tell local governments and local law enforcement what to do. These bills direct the state treasury to withhold taxpayer dollars from your cities, townships, and villages. These are the same Republicans who said they want less government overreach, and more local control. Meanwhile, they are trying to control everyone and everything. Let's be very clear. Local law enforcement officers take an oath of office, just like us as electeds, to uphold the state constitution and the U.S. Constitution, and they are not breaking laws. They are already complying with state and federal laws. It is an insult to our local law enforcement officers who get up every single day to stand up in the line of duty. We should be giving them all the resources and tools they need to do their job, not dangle money like a carrot in front of their nose. And these dumb bills are a distraction and a tool for Republicans to scapegoat the immigrant community, which they know nothing about. As the only foreign-born state legislator, I will not stand for any speaker and his caucus when it comes to targeting people like me, who came to this country because of war and persecution. Let us be very clear. The vast majority of undocumented immigrants in our country today are here because they came through legal pathways and are waiting for their applications to be processed. There are people that are literally dying, crossing rivers and oceans to come to this country to bring their children here so that they can have a better opportunity in hopes that one day their child can serve in this institution and to give back to the same community that gave her so much. When we have senior citizens who are at risk of losing their medical care, workers like local law enforcement officers who are worried about not having a secure retirement after serving our state for decades, and when we have teachers who get up every single day to care for our children, to teach them how to become informed citizens who are unable to afford their own own health insurance. Instead, the Speaker is releasing bills that abuse his power, more focused on discharging bills to the floor so that his members can spew hate and rally their base, who gives white supremacists a platform on the House floor to spew racism and conspiracy theories. It is an insult to this institution. Week after week, we have seen the Speaker gavel us down, silence us for standing up for the Constitution, while giving his members his megaphone and the platform of a speakership to divide communities. The people need us to deliver for them, not to illegally withhold bills or critical taxpayer money that would actually address the very criminal issues that they claim to be so worried about. Let's get back to work, Mr. Speaker. Uphold the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause, which protects the rights of all peoples regardless of their national origin. With that, I will pass it over to Representative Hoskins.
Jason Hoskins, State Representative for Michigan's 18th District, and once again, I find myself standing here in front of you having to address hateful, dangerous, bigoted rhetoric from Josh Schriver. And once again, House Democrats are taking action to hold Representative Schriver accountable. As Leader Perry emphasized, this is a dereliction of duty by House leadership, that they allowed a member to spew hateful and blatantly racist rhetoric on the House floor without consequence. And it's really frustrating to me because we played this game before. See, last year when Representative Schriver engaged in similar antics, this body moved quickly to hold him accountable. I introduced a resolution condemning his hateful remarks, and the Speaker at the time, Speaker Tate, took swift and decisive action by stripping Representative Schriver of his committees, of his office allotment, of his staff. That was accountability. That was this chamber saying with one voice that we will not tolerate bigoted rhetoric in the people's house. But yet, here we are again. Because instead of learning, instead of reflecting, instead of choosing the path of public service and public decency, Rep. Schriver has doubled and tripled down. He's been on quite a tear this year. And Jeremy Moss and I can only pop up at so many of his press conferences and tell him his ideology is bonkers before it becomes clear. He's never going to learn, and he's never going to change. So we must take action. And I said this last year, but I want to make it clear. The reason why this is so important and the reason why we need to speak out on this so forcefully is because when you promote racist and bigoted hate speech and conspiracy theories, you aren't just spewing ignorance, you are giving license to bigots and xenophobes and violent extremists here in our state. You make the mere existence of being a person of color, of being an immigrant, of being part of a marginalized community a dangerous and perilous thing. That's why it is so important that we step up. That's why it is critical that we bring up Representative MacDonnell's censure resolution. Because this body must send a message, not just to Representative Schriver, but to the people of Michigan, that this is not who we are. That hate and racism and xenophobia and bigotry have no place in the Michigan House of Representatives or anywhere in this state. Thank you.